Good evening. I'd like to call the Joint Committee of Ordinance in Downtown to order. We are hearing before us tonight Council Order 2016-285. It is a council order relative to a land disposition agreement, parcel H1 in the Hancock parking lot. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilor Kane. Present. Councilor Kroll.
Present.
Councilor DeBona.
Present.
Councilor Finn.
Present.
Councilor Harris.
Present.
Councilor Hughes. Councilor Liang. Councilor Palmucci. Chairman LaForest.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And in our packets here this evening, we do have an agenda. First up, we have an introduction and project background within the context of the URDP, the Downtown Urban Redevelopment Project, Design Guidelines and Vision. Representing the Mayor's Office, Bill Geary, Special Counsel for the Mayor on our downtown development, as well as Rob Stevens, our downtown planner. Mr. Geary.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman, and through you to members of the committee and the council. We're pleased to be here this evening to give the background for the project which was announced nearly 2 years ago by the mayor as one of the first projects to be undertaken in the downtown area, along with the O'Connell project and the Galvin project at Cliveden Place. During the course of the last 2 years, and a little over a year that I've been involved, we have gone through a painstaking process of reviewing the options for the developers known as LBC as to the project that could be undertaken. As a historical note, when the partners of LBC first came to the city of Quincy and met with the mayor for the purpose of expressing their interest in developing projects in the city, the mayor gave them a challenge and essentially stated that challenge was put your money where your mouth is. If you want to develop in Quincy, buy property. And that indeed is what LBC and their partners proceeded to do, was to aggregate property throughout the downtown area. And the council will have an opportunity to look at some of those properties when the representatives of LBC make their presentation. And they aggregated property both along Hancock Street and along Parking Way. Much of that property, virtually all of that property actually, was commercial property. Some of them had tenants, others did not. On the Parking Way Ross lot side of the downtown, they were able to maintain commercial activities that were there, to introduce new commercial activities. Along Hancock Street, they decided that they wanted to aggregate a number of properties for the purpose of building a project there that they would otherwise be able to build by right. They purchased the properties aggregated from the corner of Cottage Avenue, traveling southward on Hancock Street, up beyond Payless Shoes and the location of the Fuji restaurant. And they had initially proposed building a project that would span that entire area. And that's the depiction you see on your screens, and the audience can see on the screen here, that was unveiled as the initial proposed project at 1500 Hancock Street. And the purpose at that time was to build a hotel. And we began talking with them about that particular project. That's when I started in my role, my current role as special counsel to the mayor. And as we looked at that project in the context of plans that have been developed for the URDP, going back to Streetworks, we were able to identify a number of issues that would constrain their proposed development. One was the fact that their property, one of their existing buildings, and also portions of the proposed new building, straddles a portion of a 100-year-plus drainage system that's sort of cobbled together over that 100 years. Portions of it are granite stones, others are corrugated pipe, others might be parts of a culvert. And the city had identified, and you will hear more about this from the city's engineer, that this drainage system, which drains a significant amount of area around the downtown area, is located directly under Hancock Street in front of the building you see pictured above, that infrastructure work was essential to not only accommodating development on that property, but development within the Hancock lot itself, because the drainage system runs through the Hancock lot on a route that zigzags on its way to Revere Road. The city, as part of identifying that civic need, infrastructure need, also relying upon the design guidelines within the URDP approved by the council, had a setback requirement. And just as you see at west of Chestnut, the sidewalk, the building is set back 10 feet back of sidewalk, that same design feature is one that the city, in consonance with the URDP guidelines, wanted to ensure that this building would also be set back 10 feet. And finally, hearkening back to the original plans by Streetworks, which remain in part in effect today as it relates to traffic flow and traffic accessibility for accessing the Hancock lot. Was a plan to extend Cliveden Street across Hancock Street to provide vehicular access to the Hancock lot, particularly to service and access the new municipal garage, which is currently undergoing preliminary design, and which the administration will be bringing before the council in the next month or so as those designs are advanced. And I said finally before, but this is really finally. Finally, one of the other elements of the plan was to provide for new pedestrian access from Hancock Street into the Hancock lot. And we initially looked at a small passageway that would go between the building on the left, as you see it depicted on your screen, and into the Hancock lot. And that became the focus of a great deal of discussion as to both design and utility. What the city wanted to avoid was creating an alleyway similar to the one that exists directly across the street next to Iron Furnace. We all know what that looks like. We all know how uninviting it is for pedestrians to traverse that particular barren and unsightly area. We didn't want to create yet a second one across the street. And we began to talk about the best way to bring people to not only the garage when it is constructed, but a new civic space that will be an integral part of that structure and create a new civic square. And that's how we began to utilize the design services of Mr. Avi Shas of SNN Consulting Group, who will present to you this evening and explain to you the elements of the design that you will see both in your packet as well as depicted on the screens. Finally, we found a synergy here, a way to combine these various needs of the pedestrian way with a relocated drainage utility, so that we had a space that was going to be usable year-round, that would preserve our need for access to the utility thereunder, and fulfill what are now beginning to become interconnecting elements of both the development along Hancock Street as well as the development within the Hancock lot, and very importantly, at this location on Hancock Street, its connection, its connective tissue to the parking way area and the Ross lot area, where, as you know, the mayor announced that we are in discussions with the Foxrock Group for a very substantial commercial development on that side. We want all of these developments to be connected both for pedestrian traffic as well as vehicular traffic. So in doing this, we essentially restricted the amount of development that LBC could undertake by right, at both ends of their proposed building. At the north end with the proposed pedestrian passageway, which is now referred to as the atrium because it's an indoor space that will belong to the city of Quincy, and on the south side by the extension of Cliveden Street across Hancock Street to provide vehicular access to the new garage. And so we began the design of this new building. As you'll see, it took on different metrics in terms of the size of the building, and by pushing the building back into the Hancock lot, we essentially forced that result and thereby required us to look at swaps of land that would facilitate the development of their building as well as fulfill the needs we had for a 10-foot setback on Hancock Street for the pedestrian way, also known as the atrium, at the south end of their building, and ultimately at the north end of the building, the space for a new extension of Cliveden Street with some additional open space. And you'll see on this slide and in your packet a recitation of the metrics of those square footages. So in essence, we asked LBC to accommodate all of these public needs that we wanted to assert on behalf of the citizens of Quincy, and they did so. And in doing so, I think they will agree that we came up collectively through this charrette process, negotiating process, with a exciting project, a better project, a project which is going to provide new civic space for the citizens of Quincy, which is going to be, as I said before, connective tissue to new outdoor civic space that's going to be part of the garage project. That was the result of that process, and you'll be hearing more about it through the presentations. And finally, the other issue was that, as you all know, LBC operates a small hotel, a suites hotel, that's adjacent to this project. And indeed, the original proposal was for that small suites hotel to share a lobby with the proposed new project. LBC, throughout this process, was conducting its due diligence in an effort to determine whether market conditions existed for a new hotel in downtown Quincy. That notion had been embodied within the prior Streetworks proposals, and LBC retained the services of a well-known hotel consulting firm to determine whether or not there was a market for a large hotel within the downtown area. And the results of that review was that there was not yet, as of this date, still, a market for such a hotel in downtown Quincy. Augmenting their efforts through the consulting firm, they contacted the several flags, several major hotel chains, and interacted with them directly, and they came back with the same answer. They indeed even entered into an agreement with one of those flags, and they went through the process of determining what it would require them to do to accommodate the request of the chain. And once again, it came back that there wasn't a sufficient market for such a use, and therefore, in their quest for financing for this project, they were unable to finance it. It was non-financeable. And as a result of that, we, with our independent expert, Pam McKinney, who you all know very well, is presented before the council and has extensive experience in dealing with hotel projects on behalf of other public clients, such as the Mass Port Authority. With her knowledge of the hotel industry, she also ascertained that there was not a market sufficient to obtain financing for this project in the downtown. So we also looked not only at a pure hotel, but we looked at a hybrid, where a certain number of units, as you see in places in downtown Boston, there are some hotels that have a combination hybrid residential and hybrid hotel. We looked at that template, and unfortunately, that template did not work either. Consequently, the developers have come forth with a proposal for a residential project of 171 units, 36 of which will be convertible. In the future, I said convertible, that were convertible to hotel units if there is a market for such units in the future. Attached to the agenda that I just outlined is a fact sheet which contains a number of the salient facts related to the project, and we'll be more than delighted to respond to any questions you may have. With that, I'd like to introduce the team from LBC to explain the investments that they've made in the city of Quincy in terms of the tax revenues that those properties that they have purchased yield to the city, as well as not only through property taxes, but through the hotel tax that their current hotel operation generates. And they will respond to any questions you have. So with that, I'll ask Mr. Alex Matoff, the designated redeveloper, one of the 3 designated redevelopers and an equity partner of LBC Partners, and Jonathan Miller, who is the project manager for this project.
Mr. Gary, thank you very much. On behalf of LBC, would like to, and my partner Andrew Shapiro, who is here in the audience, would like to thank administration and the City Council for a great opportunity to be part of this amazing vision for downtown. We have started our journey here in Quincy about 2.5 years ago. We immediately recognized the potential and the need that the city has. Within that time, we acquired approximately over $20 million worth of real estate properties within the downtown of Quincy. I'm proud to say that today in taxes, we are paying over $500,000 a year, and with a new project, that number will be over $1 million a year. With this, I'd like to introduce you to Jonathan Miller, who is a young, talented gentleman who is the project manager for this project, and he will be able to let you more into the details of the project itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, counselors, the administration, and everyone working with the redevelopment team. We've been here for the last 2 years now in Quincy, and we've seen a huge transformation. We've been working with the city's team to try and fit within the URDP number 4, as well as the ever-evolving master plan for the Hancock lot. We started with Nova, which was a 28-room boutique hotel, and we took that from what was essentially a blighted rooming house to a 28-room hotel. Although this does not work on a larger scale at this moment, we're proud of it and the contribution it's made to the downtown. As Alex said, we have many properties here in Quincy. They're on the chart in front of you. Most of them are on Hancock Street and on Parking Way. This new building, we've been working day in and day out on, and what's in front of you tonight has been a collective effort between us and the city responding to the issues with the first project. We spent $2 million in soft cost to date, out of pocket, developing this building program, and we're very proud of it. We hope that you share our enthusiasm for it tonight, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Avi Shas to talk a little bit about the building itself.
Thank you for having me this evening, and I think that Bill and Jonathan and Alex's beginning, they've touched on most everything. Now just to jump to the building itself and the impact that this is going to have on Hancock Street and the development of downtown Quincy as a whole. First, to touch on the collaboration with the city administration and designers and consultants and the design team, has been a pleasure. Everybody's put forth an honest effort, and with the constraints that the URDP had provided on what was our initial design, the by right design, I think that what we have developed is a true test of teamwork, and I think everybody has bought into the public benefit of the extension of the sidewalks and the public space, the safety and the aesthetic of the atrium, which to be branded, but will be a wonderful connection from everything that's happening in the Ross Garage and Hancock Street to the future developments, including some that were discussed last week, and the parking garage. And not only is it, I'm biased, but it obviously offers a upgrade to what is existing, but it's it will be a well-lit, energized, dynamic environment using both traditional materials that are contextual to downtown Quincy, as well as modern materials like the glass and the metal of the atrium, which provide not only an aesthetic backdrop to the precast and the brick, but it's also it's just a safe and conditioned way to travel. That, as Bill said, it was the administration's intention not to have this as an alley, and I think that what we've created is, in essence, a galleria, something that you would see in major cities throughout the U.S. and even Europe, where people aren't just passing through. There's access to restaurants and a lot of vibrancy that is proposed. So so now to get into some of the specifics about the building, and I know that there's a lot of people to talk, so I'm going to try to keep it quick. But a mix of precast concrete, brick, and really nice traditional materials paired with some more modern glassy metals and panelized systems, I think will, not only complement what's there, but also complement what's to come in the future. And whatever redevelopment comes, this will play a role in setting a tone as a really important, component to all the future development. Bill did mention it's 171 units of residential with 36 that are located on the second floor inside of the podium, which is a concrete construction. Those are designed to be easily modified to hotel units should, the economic drivers and all the, in the markets be where they need to be to make that switch. Obviously, economy or, market driven. There's 15,000 square feet of commercial space on the first floor. Right now, we have 4 tenant spaces. There are a lot of interested tenants for the restaurant space, which is right directly adjacent to the atrium. It kind of fills in a nice restaurant court with what's happening at west of Chestnut and Alba and all the restaurant development that's happening. It creates a nice little synergy and square. That, along with the additional sidewalk space, just is going to provide a really nice walking, connective tissue or connective fabric from what, all the development that's happening. So with that said, we can scroll through some of the other photos, a nice night shot, obviously trying to highlight not only the building itself, but the vibrancy of the atrium, the safety components of the lighting, the nice features there. And I guess I am going to leave it at that, and I will turn it over to, oh, I'm sorry. So here's the interior shot of the atrium, which actually shows some of the permeability between the Hancock building, retail lobby, the atrium, the passage that a pedestrian would take from Hancock to the lot. Mike Fabiano from High Point will talk about the landscape and the features, exterior features outside of this. And as Bill mentioned, you'll get to hear about what is proposed for just across the road in the next month or so. So with that, I'll turn it over to David White.
Thank you. Just a follow-up to Mr. Strauss's comments, because I think it's important in terms of the feedback that we've received from the council in our prior presentations with respect to the prior LDA for O'Connell. We've all talked about the need for economic activity in the downtown. That by necessity, obviously, these first projects that have been discussed have been residential in nature, really introducing in this section of the downtown a new residential community that didn't exist over the course of the last 50 or 60 years. But we are earnestly trying to make this mixed use work synergistically, and the commercial activity is critical. Both the proposed activity that's going to occur over on the Ross side, as well as saving or restoring, if you will, commercial activity along this stretch of Hancock Street. All of those buildings that were replaced or will be replaced had commercial activity at a lessened area over the course of the last number of years as blight began to afflict the downtown. In this scenario, they are replacing with this new building under constrained circumstances virtually as much retail space, as much commercial space on Hancock Street that previously existed, even with that 10-foot setback that they had, 10-foot of valuable commercial square footage that they lost. The other aspect here that's important is that the design of the building as it revolved required this building to have 4 faces, 4 fronts. So this atrium, as you see it, is going to be looking out on a new civic space that is in front of the new garage. There's the side that's going to look out on Hancock Street, and then there's the side that will look out on the new Cliveden Way extension. So we are heading in the direction of maximizing as much as possible in this project and in future projects the availability of commercial and retail space on what I like to call Quincy's Main Street. So with that, I'm going to ask the city's consulting engineer, David White from Woodard and Curran, and Mike Fabiano. I'll let them decide how they're going to present, but the next slides you see will relate to the infrastructure work, which is not sexy, but necessary. It's indispensable. And we know how much chaos sometimes infrastructure work can inflict on a busy area like downtown Quincy. And one of the beauties of the legislation that was enacted is that by being able now legally to have the designated redeveloper do this work simultaneously with the work they're going to do on their own project, and in this instance, almost as a precursor to the work they're going to do on this project, it will be more expeditious and more cost-effective for the city of Quincy. With that, I'll ask Dave White to step forward.
Just while you're coming up, I think we should have started this out, but our intent tonight is get through a preliminary presentation by the project team. We do hope to have opening questions by some of the counselors along the well, but we will have a hard stop at 7:30 and subsequent meetings to be scheduled. So we definitely want to get through as much of the initial presentation tonight as we can. So thank you.
So I will make the call right now. I was just going to present on some of the landscape treatments, but I think in the interest of time, I'll defer to David to talk about the culvert activity, which was the public improvement project, and then we can circle back if people have questions about the site amenities for the Hancock corridor or the drop-off zone.
And much sexier, yes. I'm going to talk about the unsexy part of the job. I'm going to specifically speak to the storm drainage infrastructure. Avi's done a great job articulating the proposal for the atrium. Presently, there's an existing storm drain that crosses through the property. You can see it on this presentation you have in front of you that sweeps from Hancock Street and moves towards the right, towards Revere Road. It presently is located beneath the 1,500 block buildings as they presently exist today, and continues through the Hancock lot to Revere Road. The construction of that is varies in age, but some of it dates back over 100 years old and is constructed of various types of constructions such as both granite block arches, granite block wall with concrete roofs, as well as corrugated metal pipe. And it's presently seen its service life, and in many instances is structurally deficient. Actually, metal bottoms of some of the culverts is actually corroded out and is in need of replacement. This project allows that opportunity to arise in that on this slide here, you can see where the salmon rectangle is where the atrium is located, and we're going to take the opportunity to relocate that brook to the position where the atrium is now and extend that through to the back of the Hancock lot. So the first phase of the drainage relocation will be this blue dotted line here, where we'll push it to the north, extend it under the atrium, and then return it back to the existing culvert in the Hancock lot. The second phase of the project will be implemented in the future with the construction of the garage. And that's shown in the second slide with the orange line. That will further bring the proposed culvert out towards the garage under the existing, the proposed access road to the future of the garage, and then return it along Revere Road back under the road. That will enable the development of the R3 lot in the future. The construction for both phases would be consisting of a reinforced concrete box culvert. Approximate dimensions are shown on your slide, 9.5 feet wide by 6.5 feet high. Total length of relocation is just over 600 feet. And this is the final alignment in blue of the culvert when we're complete. Thank you.
Just on that, stormwater infrastructure, relative to the former location of the town brook, is this the remnants of that?
This is the remnants of the Old Town Brook. It presently serves about 80 acres of additional urban watershed that constitutes the Ross Garage area, this portion of Hancock Street up by City Hall in front of the church, as well as the overall Hancock lot itself.
So this is a city liability?
Correct.
Okay. At this time, I'll open up to any questions. Counselor Palmucci.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. If I could through you to Mr. Gary. Good evening, sir. I don't know what the best drawing to look at here to get my bearings on this, but are we still seeking to, would we control the atrium? Would that be city land, or would that be an easement? What would that
It will be conveyed to the city in fee interest, so that we control that, and of course, the subterranean component that Mr. White just referred to, the drainage capacity. It is our plan that this property will be managed in tandem with the management of the new garage and the civic space in front of it. And in response to a question I believe you posed at a prior meeting regarding the garage, it is the city's intention to do an RFP to hire a professional garage management firm to manage these three components together.
Okay, and are we still, passageway number 6, are we still looking to have that to be a penetration point from Hancock to the lot?
That's the extension for Cliveden Street, yes.
Okay, and what will that look like?
It will be a street with some open space, some, hardscape, open space, public space at the Hancock Street end of it.
So it'll be for cars?
It'll be for cars and pedestrians. We expect to have pedestrian-friendly features at that intersection, benches, maybe some landscaping.
So, I mean, one of the reasons why I ask is because it's not really shown in much detail on this, even though it's on the other side of this building, right? So to me, when we're talking about what you guys have presented for quite some time now about needing these penetration points, using your words, penetration points into the parking area from Hancock. So I guess my point is that we're seeing the atrium on one side, clearly because they're going to be responsible for creating it, I presume, so it makes sense that it would be a part of this, but why would we not also see a conceptual design on what the other side's going to look like, and why aren't they responsible for that?
That's a fair question, an excellent question, because we are going to do that design as part of the garage design.
Okay, but we don't own that land yet, right?
We do not, no.
Someone else owns that land.
LBC owns most of that land, if not all of it.
So is that part of the 2-for-1 exchange that we're talking about?
No.
in Land swap?
No, that will be because it's part of the garage project. As I mentioned, we will be coming back before the council to seek the council's authorization and appropriation for the funds necessary to build the garage and what we've referred to as its appurtenances. Those are the access and egress roads, and that will be one of them.
So the discussion about the city purchasing land from LBC adjacent to this particular parcel isn't part of the LDA?
This
Really?
LDA, that is correct, it is not.
Okay. So arguably, at some point, it'll be either part of another LDA or part of a straight-out purchase from the city to LBC?
It will be part of a straight-up purchase as part of the administration's request to the city council for authorization and approval of the garage and all of its appurtenances.
Okay. I'll leave that for now, but that'll be a point that I trust you and I will get into in greater detail, either in council or in the interim. So this is the hotel project, no longer a hotel. It may be a hotel at some point in the future if it becomes feasible, right?
That's correct.
So with that being said, it's always been proposed that a hotel was necessary to help revitalize the downtown area. Are we seeking to have a hotel built at another site in the downtown district?
Not at this time. However, it is a prospect, and once again, as you probably know well from your prior experience with Streetworks, it was part of the Streetworks
I think it was two hotels.
proposals,
Streetworks, yeah.
two hotels, I think one on each side. However, the market dictates that, and the market at the moment, and for the 2 years that they've been looking at it, and the 1+ year that I've been looking at it with Pam McKinney, the market does not exist for it currently. And we do know that on the north side of the city, a 168-room Marriott, Residence by Marriott has been approved. So there are other areas in the city where there may be opportunities for hotel development, but right now not in downtown. And we do hope, because of the commercial nature of the prospective development on the Ross side, that will be the beginnings of a potential market for the type of business, in part, that Nova Suites actually conducts currently.
Okay. Now, how many of the 171 units, that's fine, I mean, that's a very dense project, but I think density makes sense in certain places if you have a lot of space, or if you're in a downtown urban area with access to the MBTA. So I'm not as kind of put off by the number of units. But how many of those 171 units are affordable?
None.
Okay. What, are they paying any money into the Affordable Housing Trust?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. And the parking contribution, what's going to be their parking contribution?
That will be a byproduct of the formula. The formula that's in their LDA is the same formula that was in the O'Connell LDA. Once we have the pricing for the garage, that formula will dictate the fee that they will pay. They have a range of prospective spaces that they may need depending upon their occupancy.
What is that?
50 to 100,
For 171 residential units,
correct.
with 30 or 50 of them potentially being hotel units in the future, you would still only have 50 parking spaces, or would that depend, would their contribution escalate if it becomes a hotel?
Of course, yes.
Okay. And do we have the appraisal so that we can,
We're waiting for the appraisal
oh
now.
brother, oh Bill, how long are we going to be waiting for that appraisal?
We
Using the same company? I mean,
Yeah.
give me the
Well,
scoop on this.
Let me say, in response to that, we won't be using the same company in the future. We expect to have the appraisal by the end of this week. We will provide it to the council immediately upon receipt. So
Okay.
that before, and that's one of the reasons that aspect of this is not on the agenda. when-
Yeah, right, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
But
no,
obviously,
I-
the sooner the better. I mean,
Yes.
this is unfortunately where we find ourselves. It's always in this, we really can't get too deep into it until we get the appraisal. And then I'm sure they have financial commitments they need to meet. They want to know whether this is going to take off or not, and, so we're getting squeezed from both ends here
Yes.
to
No
kinda hurry up,
one
make a decision. we
regrets
don't
that
yet
more
have the
than
facts.
I do.
All right, all of the points I brought up tonight, I intend on getting into in greater detail with you. Those are kind of just my top of the, highlights of what I think I'll be looking at specifically with this. And I know we have limited time, so I don't want to take up any more time if other folks have questions or comments. But thank you for the presentation tonight. I look forward to getting some additional information from you in the future.
Thank you, Counselor, always a pleasure.
Counselor Liang.
Chairman. Good evening, Bill. Thank you for taking the time to come and present tonight. I just have two questions for you, and I know, again, this is very preliminary, so if you don't have the answers tonight, if we can follow up and present them at our next committee meeting, that'd be great. The first one is on the conversion of the 36 units to possibly make them hotel rooms. What do you foresee as the procedure for that? Because there's an estimate here on contributions to property taxes, and I imagine that that would be based off of what we're going to charge per unit. But if we then convert that to hotels, then you're now talking about not a steady monthly income from rent, but rather what your income's going to look like from people going in and taking out those hotel rooms. So what do you foresee as the procedure of determining how many of those units will convert into hotels, and what does that process look like?
Well, in the first instance, it will be whether or not a determination is made, whether there's a market for it. As to how it affects the valuation of the property, quite candidly, I would defer to the city's assessor. The most immediate impact that it would have, I think, in terms of revenue for the city, would be that it could charge the hotel tax. And indeed, as small as Nova Suites is, and it's only 28 units, they do have very good occupancy, so that they are developing and cultivating a database as to the likely users for this type of hotel. They paid last year $55,000 overall in the aggregate for the hotel tax.
Okay, so do we imagine that it's going to be, 5 units come off and now become hotels, and then a couple months later, we assess and then 5 more units? Is that going to be?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I would defer to LBC, because that's really a management issue. I would say that in terms of their construction, for the most part, in constructing the building, they will have a template, if you will, for the standard hotel room. But as Mr. Shaw said in his presentation, all of these rooms are on the second floor, and I don't know whether they have made a judgment that operationally it doesn't make sense to convert 6 or 8 or 9 on one floor that contains regular residents. I'd be pleased to have Jonathan or Alex respond to that.
Okay, yeah, my interest in it, again, is more so, procedurally, it'd be good to know and to have an expectation of when those rooms are going to come off. But like you said, Bill, the assessor's office would know more financially what that impact is going to look like over time, correct? Okay.
As a step in that direction, we would dedicate the entire second floor, which is 36 units, plus the existing 28 units of the existing hotel part.
Okay, thank you. Bill, just one last question for you. So I know that Councilor Palmucci touched on the garage, and that's a conversation we're going to have. You said that the cost of the garage is going to come before us in, when? A month?
We're hoping to be before the council in April with a presentation on all the elements of the garage as it relates to the cost, the prospective cost. As I said in the past, we've instructed our consultant to give us alternative options as to the number of parking spaces predicated on what we judge to be market demand. We are conducting, as part of the preliminary design, a follow-up traffic study from the traffic studies that were conducted in the past, predicated on the new data we have as it relates to the development projects that have come before the council and been approved by the council. And the architectural elements will come before the council. The elements of the civic space, space that will be designed to draw people to that space as an energizing factor for downtown, both for the new residents who will be living in the downtown, as well as visitors, and hopefully a new cadre of workers who are going to be working in the downtown. So all of those issues will be before the council, and of course, the cost factor will be before the council, and the cost factor will be predicated on the different options and alternatives that will be contained in the study and reviewed by the council. And prior to or coincident with, but my sense from my prior appearances before the council is that you would prefer it to be prior to. We would like to have a public meeting for the entire public at the library or the high school, whatever appropriate venue there is, to solicit public input into that process before we submit it to the council for your review, with the hope and aspiration that the public input will shape that submission to this body.
Okay, and for that cost, I noticed in here, and I know this is a draft LDA.
Yes.
But on page 9, when it talks about coordinating and timing of the construction of the garage, and also the relationship of the project to the garage, for the last LDA we looked at and reviewed, the cost of the project was tied into the cost of space for the garage.
Yes.
So I imagine that from this language in here, they're also tied together.
Correct.
Now, there's language in here that says that in the event that the opening of the garage is delayed, the rent payable by the redeveloper under the parking lease shall not commence following the completion of the garage for a period of time equal to a percentage of the number of days by which the opening of the garage is delayed, beyond the date originally established in the city's contract for the completion of the garage. So my understanding of that is that there's the project itself and their timeline and the garage's timeline. And from what it sounds like, they both have to be completed at the same time. I mean, the spaces have to be delivered by the time the project opens, or else there's going to be a penalty on our end.
That's correct.
Okay, so do we have, I didn't see a timeline in here from going through this paperwork. Would it be possible to get a timeline then of this project at our next committee meeting, just so we can have an idea of when
This
that's...
project, the LBC project? Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure, again,
Yes.
understanding
And-
that...
And that's predicated on the process that occurs here at the council, and thereafter, the certificate of consistency process that occurs at the planning board, and of course, the regular permitting process that they would have to go through.
Okay, but just having a timeline of that would be great.
So
thank you.
the timeline really is triggered by when the council deems it appropriate to act on the proposal before you.
Okay, that was it. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Val.
Okay, we're going to have Counselor Finn, and if there's time, Counselor Kroll.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Again, Bill, very quickly, I noticed that, again, in the presentation, LBC engaged to review market conditions to make the decision shaping this project. And I guess one of the concerns I'm having, not just particularly as it relates to this project, this project's putting forward, talking about 15,000 square feet of ground floor commercial space. And we know, again, we just approved a project that also has a certain square footage in terms of specifically retail space. And I guess one of my concerns as part of the vision of this was trying to create, in some manner, through kind of a combined planning and development around these issues, something that was going to be a draw and attractive as well to those people coming in. So I guess the key question is either the city or LBC, are they engaging in any way, which we had talked about originally going way back, with some specialists in the area specifically of retail around the market that might fit, or that fits particularly with some of who they're trying to draw into these buildings. Has anybody done such market analysis at this point, or is there a plan to do that? Because, again, my grave fear is we don't want to, build a boat in the basement, so to speak, so.
I think that's an excellent point, Counselor. I do know that LBC has been doing that LBC has been talking with major potential tenants. They also have the good fortune, you just met Mr. Schoss for the first time, but I met him about a year ago. He has extensive experience as an architect designing for retail uses, and has those contacts in major projects in the metropolitan Boston area. And if he has a few minutes, if he would care to comment on that?
Sure. I mean, very quickly, we have engaged through, pretty traditional methods with brokers and trade shows. I mean, we have created lease outline documents and marketing materials and with that
People who
collateral.
specialize in the retail
Correct.
component.
So, I mean, between, your big players like the Colliers and the Newmark Knight Franks and, the local representation here in Quincy, we've been to New York and to a bunch of the retail trade shows and have a significant amount of interest both locally from local homegrown retail and also the national credit tenant retail, including, as I mentioned, a relatively large restaurant space. I know that there's some office space. There's everything is being tailored to specific tenant discussions. And what's nice about the construction and the concept that we've developed with the podium, and everybody's familiar with that type of construction, is that the first floor being concrete is very flexible. We just, we can kind of set the mark, the columns go in, and then the demising walls can tailor themselves to the specific tenants.
Right.
So those discussions are happening.
And as time goes on, you'll be able to kind of give us a picture of
I
what that
think
is.
as
that
time
we're
goes
talking
on,
about.
we would like to
Yeah.
put the rendering with actual logos on it instead of pretend
Right. All right.
logos. So that's-
Terrific. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay, Counselor Kroll.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I know we're coming up against the hour here, so they'll be pretty straightforward. And, as I know, I do my best thinking as I kind of take the information and process it. But, I apologize if you touched on this already. I'm battling a head cold, so it's, is what it is. But in terms of the parking, I know there was some discussion here. 171 units, and they are aiming at taking up, how many spaces? Was it one?
They
110,
have a
120?
range depending upon the ramp-up of their occupancy from 50 to 100.
Say it one more time?
From 50 to 100.
All right, so call it 100. So if we're in at 100 there, and O'Connell was what, 120?
I'm sorry, it's 50 to 150, I'm sorry.
50 to 1, all right, so we'll split the difference and call it 100. And
Yep.
Mr. O'Connell was in at 120, right, roughly?
I believe it was 126 or to 130.
126, so we're at 2.25, right? And we're targeting 600 to 700. I only say that because every time you have an opportunity to interact, my pet peeve is parking, because if we don't build that garage appropriately, unfortunately, the surrounding neighborhoods will bear the butt of something that they're not looking to do. So I just mentally have to hear myself say that, because I'm always running numbers, fortunately or unfortunately. It drives my wife nuts. Second question is around the atrium. I was going through the one-pager here.
Yes,
The applicant, LBC, will look to pay for the design of the atrium,
that is correct.
but they're not actually paying for the construction of the atrium.
No. The construction of the atrium will be funded by the city, along with the relocation of the drainage line below it. That will be a prevailing wage job.
So that's essentially diff money. Any idea, rough estimate, back of the napkin, what something like that costs?
Of the atrium itself?
Yes.
It's 1.4 million for the
1.4.
atrium, and the design cost thus far, which has been incurred, because you see the renderings, is about $150,000.
And the drainage line underneath, I know that the gentleman went through that in pretty great detail. Will that be subsidized by the applicant, or are they
No,
just
that's
getting the
that's a
ball
ci-
rolling
that's
on that?
city responsibility.
All right, because I had heard that and it stuck out to me, because I knew that, DIF was always targeted at underground infrastructure, so I thought it would be somewhat of an anomaly if the applicant was
Correct.
looking to pay that. So essentially, the city, outside of getting a, high-class development, at least with the Charette show, will get a contribution to the design of the atrium, and obviously a commitment for X amount of parking spaces, which helps subsidize the cost of the garage.
Correct.
And what else am I missing?
I think you covered it.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Just a quick follow-up on Councilor Crowell's question on the atrium being a public space, being designed and constructed. That also means utilities, maintenance, operations going forward will all be at city expense.
That is correct, and as I said, we're looking at this holistically in terms of the garage and the civic space that's attached to the garage, and this space that leads to the garage. We do see that there'll be some retail activity on the base of the, modest amount of activity, at the base of the garage facing the civic space, so that there's always a activity wholesome activity that's going on in that space, and we do foresee that there will be opportunities for the city to generate revenue through rental. So, for example, I mentioned even today to the LBC folks, to the extent that in the rendering you see folks sitting at tables in that atrium, to the extent that those are from the restaurant that's in their building, that restaurant will be paying rent for that space and any other types of activities such as kiosks. And within that mix will be the opportunity for pure civic activities, whether it's an art show, whether it's other civic activities that the city could subsidize, that are activities that it would want to subsidize, that could be provided to appropriate groups gratis.
So, I think it's important, as we talk about activating the main streets, that there's a comfort level of
Yes.
flowing from the restaurants to the parking area. And we don't have the most comfortable experience at this current time. I want to thank you, everybody, for your presence this evening. We are going to continue to March 6th. That's a Monday prior to our council meeting, 6:30. So if you could let the project team know.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Quick thought, Councilor Palmucci.
Thank you, I appreciate it, Chairwoman. I know you're trying to wrap up. I didn't get that until Councilor Kroll had raised it about the atrium. So I'd asked about affordable housing. I assumed there was no art contribution. There are three things in the URDP that we said, if we're going to have projects developed under this, they're going to get to skip the regular zoning process, which benefits them because people can't file appeals and can't stop their project. If they're going to take advantage of this expedited process, that the community, the city of Quincy and the residents get something back in one of three forms, preferably all three: affordable housing, public improvement, or contribution to the art fund. So in this, there is no, in public improvements, public space, something like that, like there was Market Square was something that was, so you're telling me that we're paying for the atrium, they're not even going to pay for the creation of the atrium themselves? I understood that they weren't going to maintain it, but they're not even going to pay for that, in addition to not paying into the art fund or the affordable housing trust fund or creating any on-site affordable housing. Is that correct, as it stands currently?
As it stands currently, you are correct on affordable housing. The donation of the design cost for the atrium is a donation to art. We believe that this is an artistic embellishment for the downtown area.
So we'll call that their, what is it, 5% of hard construction costs?
1%.
1% of hard construction costs? So I want to see the design bill for the atrium, and I want to see the projected hard construction costs to find out if that matches up. But I didn't mean to cut you off and finish.
Okay. And the city wishes to control that property in fee for programming purposes and for purposes of access to the subterranean infrastructure.
But arguably, that's part of the 2-for-1 exchange in the land, the 5,000 square feet that they're giving us versus the 10,000 square feet that we're giving them, right?
Well, it's also, it's predicated on what the appraiser finally comes back with as to the exchange of
the
value
same.
there.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, I just for the record, that's going to be a hurdle that someone's going to need to get me over, that there's no real contribution to public space, and the fact that they're not paying for it, there's no contribution to the art fund. And I'm willing to be persuaded that the hard cost is going to equal the design for this atrium, although I doubt it. And then also that there's no
I
contribution.
don't know that I'm
to-
prepared to make that representation at this
Okay.
time.
So
All right, thank you.
Councilor Palmucci, I will say on our fact sheet, it does say project developer paying for the design and other public space as its contribution to public art. In the rear of the property, we haven't delved into that. There is another public, looks like a pocket park. We haven't got into that yet. Like Councilor Palmucci, I'm a strong proponent of public art. I think when we looked at the original design guidelines, we envisioned, a sculpture walk and not architectural elements as we've seen. Now, I will concede that architecture is art. I think what we were envisioning in progressing our community forward and embracing and enriching the arts in our community hasn't really been aligned with the LDAs and the projects coming forth. We understand the flexibility, but I agree. I definitely will look into that as our further questions come together. But I appreciate you kicking that off.
Thank you.
As it is something we have been very staunch proponents of. So with that, I am going to recess this meeting. Or adjourn this meeting. We will continue, pick up where we left off on Monday, March 6th. Thank you.
I would like to call to order this evening, this February 21st, 2017 regular meeting of the Quincy City Council. If, Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll.
Counselor Kane. Present. Counselor Kroll. Present. Counselor DeBona. Present. Counselor Harris. Counselor LaForest. Present. Counselor Liang. Counselor Palmucci. President Finn.
Present. If I could, I'd like ask everyone to join and stand in a moment of silence and a prayer for divine guidance, especially remembering our men and women in uniform serving here and abroad. Thank you. I ask you to remain standing and join with me in a pledge of allegiance to our flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I do anything else, I wanted to take a moment to point out the fact that I am not Council President Kirsten Hughes. She is actually, part of her day job requires her this evening to be in Washington, D.C., and again, she's unable to attend this meeting today. The second thing I do want to do, though, is to take a moment to recognize, I noticed he's here in the chamber with us this evening, the former mayor of the city of Quincy and former city councilor Joe Larea. Thank you, Mayor, for all your years of service. If I could ask the clerk to please read the disclaimer related to the open meeting law and the audio and videotaping of the proceedings here this evening.
Pursuant of the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, the first item on the agenda this evening.
Number one on the agenda, 2017-25, order disposition of 50 Seville Ave.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the mayor's representative, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just briefly, if I may, before reference to committee, just to give a little background on the first two items on the agenda, which are somewhat related. Item number one is the disposition of 50 Seville Avenue, which is a house that most of you know is currently, together with 58 Seville Avenue, home to the administrative offices for the Public Buildings Department. Currently, those buildings are not efficient. They don't have space for records, and we have staff between both buildings. So we'll be proposing the disposition of 50 Seville Avenue, which brings us to the second piece of this request, item number 2 on the agenda, which is the acquisition of 74 Greenleaf Street, which is a historic Victorian home that is currently being sold by nonprofit agency Work, Inc., its current owner. We've been offered first dibs, so to speak, on this property from the nonprofit agency before it goes out to market. The mayor is proposing to preserve this building, which is on the National Register of Historic Places, and move public buildings into this facility. The site is zoned Residence B and is up to about 16,000 square feet in total space. So if it does hit the open market, it's a very good chance there'll be a pretty substantial housing development on that site. Funding for this request will come from a capital assets account, which is existing. Today, that account has $800,000 in it, thanks to the sale of 2 non-utilized city properties, one on Chapman Street and one on Quincy Shore Drive. So essentially what we're proposing, what the mayor's proposing to do, is to replace 2 properties which the city sold that weren't utilized by the city and weren't useful to the city, to a property that we think has both a useful purpose and one that serves a preservation effort as well. Those monies in the capital asset account are specifically for public buildings. They cannot drop into the general fund, cannot be used for anything else but for public buildings. So that's the basics on those 2 properties, and we look forward to having a further discussion in committee, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Chair recognizes Councilor Crowe.
Make a motion to refer to committee.
We have a motion to refer to finance, seconded by Councilor DeBona. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Item number 2, Madam Clerk.
Item number 2, 2017-26, appropriation for $775,000 for acquisition of 74 Greenleaf Street.
Chair recognizes Councilor Kroll.
Thank you, Mr. Acting President. In the same
Good job,
vein, I'd
Act.
like to make a motion to refer this to Finance Committee as well.
We have a motion to move to finance, seconded by Councilor LaForest. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Item number 3.
2017-27, appropriation for $82,144 for the supervisory union salary increases.
The chair recognizes Mr. Walker from the mayor's office.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Just very briefly, this is similar to a number of other appropriation requests that have come before the body in the last several months, reflecting contractual agreements with the various bargaining units within the city. This is for the Superior union salary increases. This money was appropriated in the budget. As everyone knows, this was reserved for appropriation. The budget represents a 1% increase for the previous fiscal year and a 2% increase for the current fiscal year.
Thank you. And given the fact, as a reminder, obviously, that this was something that existed in the budget at times, contracts are in the midst of negotiation, and that's the purpose for the reserve of appropriation. I would certainly entertain a motion that we pass that this evening, but the chair recognizes Councilor Kroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can't really add much perspective to that. I believe the mayor's representative did a great job outlining exactly what it was. I think more importantly, that when we took a vote on the budget for the FY17 outlay, this was part of the reserve for appropriation. So with that, I would move approval.
We have a move for approval, seconded by Councilor Palmucci. No discussion on the motion. If the clerk would call, Chair recognizes Councilor Palmucci.
Through you to the mayor's representative, or perhaps the auditor. This was the exact amount that we appropriated? I don't have my budget book in front of me.
Council, there was a overall, through you, Mr. President, I'm sorry. There was an overall number reflecting what would be needed for all of the unions based upon the projection of a 1% and a 2%. This $82,000 reflects
portion.
that reflects that.
So
yes.
did we come in above, at, below the total number as we've resolved? I think this is what, the second or third contract that's been resolved
Yeah, we
now?
still have a few to go. We have no reason to believe at this time that we will be above the appropriation request. Again, the amount was based upon what had been settled at that time. The contracts, and the contracts throughout the system are reflecting those identical increases of 1% for fiscal 2017 and a 2% for fiscal 2017.
I can only imagine the difficulty of having to negotiate with the remaining unions when there's clearly an item, a chunk of money that we have set aside for the raises, to suggest you can't go to some amount when they know the budget's set aside in that amount. But it probably works the other way as well, because they know we can't, you're unlikely to negotiate a contract that goes above that set amount. So you're kind of shooting in the middle there, I'd imagine.
I guess through you, Mr. President, I'm not going to, I'm a little reluctant to get into negotiating tactics.
That wasn't a
at
question
the
for you. I
council.
don't know why you're talking right now.
Okay.
That was more of a statement than anything. But these are tied, the supervisory union salaries are tied to to those they supervise? Were those the similar
Correct.
bumps? Okay.
Correct. And supervisory, and for folks that don't know, councils that may not know, supervisory is with a clerical union within City Hall. It represents mostly folks in City Hall and some of the other administrative departments. So there's one union that represents one level of clerical workers, and this is the union that represents the other level of clerical workers within the city.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Chair recognizes Councilor DeBona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on this, so we're going to retrospect this back to 2016, July 1st, is that correct? That is correct.
Through you, Mr. President, that is correct.
And furthermore, into the next year, are we going with the 17, 2%? What are we doing in 18, or what is happening in 18?
18 in these contracts is a 2% as well.
And is it further than that as well? Is it 19, 20?
A lot of these agreements, Counselor, there have been two rejoinder agreements that have been settled concurrently. One's a 3-year. We're only allowed to do 3-year contracts at a time. So there's a 3-year contract and a 2-year contract that follows that we've, or a 2-year contract and a 3-year contract, I'm sorry. There was a discussion, there was an appetite amongst bargaining units to create a level of predictability going forward. So between the mayor's work, the Human Resources Department, their work, and the bargaining units, there was a agreement to come up with 2 separate bargaining agreements, which will take us through 5 years, which budgetarily is a help because it gives us a good predictor of what
Foresight,
we're going
yeah.
to be facing in the coming years.
Just to elaborate a little bit on the unions in general across the city of all the different departments, are you trying to keep kind of that level, same increments, 1, 2, 2? Is that kind of across the board what you're trying to stay at for other unions as well?
Yeah, without getting too far into detail, Counselor, without getting into the negotiating side of it, yes. In fact, that's something the mayor's been clear. There are things we can talk about at the negotiating table that aren't necessarily the cost of living increases that we provide our employees, which are well-deserved. So that the financial part of it is something that everyone was well aware of, has been well aware of. If those issues can't be resolved, there's a process that takes that place. We've been very fortunate over the last 8 years to have such great cooperation and coordination with the folks that work for the city. We hope and expect that will continue, but there are always issues.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, if the clerk could call the roll.
Counselor Kane? Yes. Counselor Crowe? Yes. Counselor DeBona? Yes. Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Counselor Forrest?
Yes.
Counselor Liang? Yes. Counselor Palmucci? Yes. President Finn?
Yes.
8 members.
Next item, Madam Clerk.
Next item is number 4 on the agenda, 2017-28, appropriation for $3,542,015 for MSBA Accelerated Repair Program for the Atherton Howe Beechwood Knoll Marymount Wollaston Elementary Schools.
The chair recognizes Counselor Crowe.
Mr. President, so this is obviously a follow-up appropriation to a conversation that this body had back, I was trying to put it together a couple months ago, regarding a statement of interest for the city to go out and approach the MSBA to target these needed improvements at the school. I'll make a motion to refer it to committee under the guise of proper advertising needing to take place, so.
We have a motion to refer to Finance Committee and to refer for advertising. Do we have a second? Seconded by Councilor LaForest. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, if the clerk would please call the roll.
Counselor Kane. Yes. Counselor Crowe. Yes. Counselor DeBona.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor LaForest. Yes. Counselor Liang. Yes. Counselor Palmucci. President Finn.
Yes.
8 members.
And I wonder why I called the roll on that, but that's all right.
That's okay. It's good to have.
Next item, Madam Clerk.
Next item is number 5, 2017-29, ordinance amending municipal code, Title 5, Chapter 5.08, gas stations, Section 5.08.020.
There's been a motion to waive the reading by Councilor Lang, seconded by Councilor Palmucci. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair recognizes Councilor Liang.
Thank you. This is an ordinance that I know that we have looked at in the past on the council. I'd like to put it into the ordinance committee to open it up for discussion and advertise properly as well. So I'd refer this to the ordinance committee.
We have a motion to refer to ordinance. Do we have a second? Seconded by Councilor Palmucci. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? None. So again, move that to ordinance committee. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Next item is number 6, 2017-30, pertaining to first-time home buyers program preference for veterans.
The chair recognizes Councilor DeBona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to start off by saying this resolution pertaining to first-time homebuyer program preference for veterans is very near and dear to my heart. Having had a grandfather, World War II veteran, U.S. Navy, a father, U.S. Air Force, Vietnam veteran, to have some type of program here in Quincy is very important to me, also being the Veterans Chairman. I also, before I get into this, I also want to recognize George Nicholson, which is Director of Veteran Services, is here tonight. Thank you for coming. We had a meeting for the Quincy Veterans Council this past Thursday. I got a unanimous vote to move this forward. This is something that I've been working on for quite a while, for a few months now, trying to figure out how I could give something back to the citizens of Quincy that put their lives on the line. And a place for, before it was World War II veterans, it was Korean veterans, Vietnam veterans. Now we're in a different phase of Gulf War veterans, Iraqi, Afghan veterans that are coming back to the city of Quincy. This will be an incentive for them. Hopefully this will move forward and they can capitalize on this. It's pertaining basically to the closing costs of buying a new house, buying a new condominium. And I'm going to go into the specific points here, how important it really is. And some of the value systems have kind of shifted a little bit, and I feel that sometimes the veterans are not really taking the limelight. They're kind of pushed aside, and I feel strong about that phrase, that statement here tonight in this chamber, that sometimes maybe you should be thinking about these veterans that put their lives on the line, and take a close look at that, please. Since the birth of our nation, American patriots have stepped forward to serve our country and defend our way of life. With honor and distinction, servicemen and women have taken up arms to win our independence, preserve our union, and secure our freedom. Our veterans are brave and selfless individuals who, when duty called, willingly put themselves in harm's ways to defend the lives and liberties of others. Their abiding patriotism and enduring devotion to the ideals on which the United States was founded can never fail to inspire us, serving as teachers, engineers, government employees, parents, and in other important capacities. These patriots have made contributions to civilian life that serve us as a testament to their dedication to the welfare of our country. We have a solemn obligation to serve our veterans as well as they served us. Therefore, be resolved that the Quincy Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee and the Quincy Home Consortium are urged to alter their existing first-time home buyer program regulations to include a veteran's preference that would waive the closing costs for all veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces, active duty military, and spouses of all those killed while on active duty. Thank you. And that the Planning and Community Development adopt the Mass Housing's Operation Welcome Home program. I'd like to put that in the form of a motion.
We have a motion from Councilor DeBona, seconded by Councilor LaForest. Yeah, I'd ask, please, no more seconds from the body this evening. I have enough time keeping track of these folks here in terms of that, but seconded by Councilor LaForest. The chair recognizes
Thank you.
Councilor LaForest.
Councilor Finn, Councilor DeBona, thank you for bringing this forward. Councilor Finn and I both serve on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We actually have had a meeting with Mass Operation Home Front probably a month ago and actually have this procedure moving forward already in our committee. So I know Councilor Finn and I were at that meeting. I know our planning director is not here this evening, but this is something that has had some forward progress already by the committee, so I just wanted to report that in. And I believe Reverend Bennett, did I see you in the audience, is also a member of our Affordable Housing Trust Committee and always a strong advocate, so thanks for your presence this evening. I'd like to second the motion.
Chair recognizes on the motion, Councilor Palmucci.
Thank you. Obviously, good job to Councilor DeBona, well put statements about the purpose of what we're doing. But is this, and I'm not trying to be a fly at the picnic here, but is this something that needs to be done? I mean, is there a wait list, or is there veterans being turned away? Okay, so
There's actually funds available for anybody right now through the Quincy Home first-time home buyer program. So there is no pending anyone being held up currently. And for more information, call the planning department directly. Sean Glennon would probably be the point of contact.
okay, thank you.
I would like to point out that Mass Housing has a specific process, which again, Councilor DeBona has referenced in this, in terms of the Operation Welcome Home program. And essentially what it's doing is it's really covering the closing costs, specifically through a deferred type of loan that they can enter into as part of it. And again, just provides a greater opportunity, because again, even in the first-time home buyers, in terms of getting to, the financing is still the critical piece. And I can't remember exactly, but it's very little that actually has to be put down in relation to the Operation Welcome Home program, which makes it well-suited, particularly to veterans who might be returning, and this is their first home buyer opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Acting President. I actually
You can leave out the acting.
Right. Mr. President for a day.
For a
I actually used this program when I bought my home in Quincy when I was a first-time home buyer. It was very helpful. I think anyone who goes through that process, buying their first home, you are literally clawing together every penny you have in the world. So even programs, especially programs like this, help a lot. They go a long way towards being able to achieve home ownership. And we often talk up here, or I often talk up here, as do some of my other colleagues, about the importance of affordable housing in the city of Quincy and how that is becoming a rarer and rarer thing. We just talked about it with the downtown development presentation earlier. So programs like this, I think, are just of the utmost importance, and we should be making them available to, obviously, to veterans. That's fantastic, but to everyone who wants to own a home in the city of Quincy, because it's that security in knowing that you are going to live somewhere and stay somewhere and plant your roots that makes, our community great. When you can really set up stakes and raise your family and grow with the community. So it's It's a great effort by Councilor DeBona. I'm happy to support it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anyone else? Given the fact that this is a resolution, I have particularly no difficulty if we want to vote and pass this evening and refer it to the Director of Planning and Community Development as well as to the mayor. So are there any further discussion? We have a motion to pass by Councilor DeBona, seconded by Councilor LaForest. Seeing no further discussion, if the clerk would call the roll.
Counselor King. Yes. Counselor Crowe.
Yes.
Counselor DeBona.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor LaForest.
Yes.
Counselor Liang.
Yes.
Counselor Palmucci.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
8 members.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor DeBona. Thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Number 7.
Objection.
2000.
Okay. All right. We have an objection, which means that the matter cannot come before us, that it will be tabled until the next meeting. And again, essentially, it's off the table for further discussion this evening. Again, our rules of the council allow for any member to object to something coming before us, and I have long, even when I disagree, fought to protect that right. So, next item, Madam Clerk.
Number 8 on the agenda, 2017-32, resolve creation of a special access revenue account inside.
Please.
Chair
Madam Clerk.
recognizes
Thank you,
Councilor Crowe.
thank you very much, Mr. President. Through you, this is basically a resolution, just as a follow-up to some of the discussion that we've had pertaining to the downtown and the financing thereof. In particular, what I was citing was a report produced by RKG that essentially showed a surplus in DIF revenue. And as the process stands now, essentially any surpluses basically drop into the general account. So my thought was, is there even the ability to create essentially a sub-account in the DIF account, say that quick 5 times, that would essentially capture this excess revenue and in my mind, be used as a additional tool to mitigate any risk. I mean, as we all know, when you undertake a large construction project, for example, the financing of a parking garage to the tune of anywhere 30, 40, 50 million dollars, there's assumed and unassumed risk. So my thought was, I just wanted to follow up on the point I had made when we were having the discussion, to see if there's been any advancement in terms of getting to the bottom of that. I don't know if Director Kavanaugh or the auditor have anything to add to that, but I just wanted to keep the conversation going because there was a noticeable amount of excess positive revenue. I don't know, is anybody here?
I don't think Mark's here.
Nobody's
Does
here.
the auditor wish to comment through?
I have had conversation with the Director of Municipal Finance, and we have been in touch with the outside auditors to discuss the possibility of this. To date, we have not received any word back from him. So once we have some specifics, I will get back to the council.
Thank you, Madam Auditor.
You're welcome.
And, you've been a pleasure, like always, to work with in on this particular item. But again, I would ask my colleagues for their support because the way I feel is it's just another tool in the city's toolbox to help, protect the interest of the taxpayers. So with that, I would, move passage.
Motion to pass a resolution seconded by Councilor Palmucci. This will be referred to Finance and to the mayor's office, rather, to the mayor and to the...
Yeah, we
Great.
referred to Director of Finance.
Director of
but yeah, it
Finance
doesn't need to go to
to the
committee.
mayor.
It's just a follow-up.
Well,
discussion.
again, in order for it to be in the calendar, so you can follow up later, it probably
Sure,
should be
either way.
referred to Finance Committee. Thanks. On the motion, Councilor Palmucci.
So I have a question to ask, but are we voting on this tonight? You seeking to vote on this tonight? Right? You want to?
It's my understanding
Yeah.
that he
Good.
wishes to, yeah.
Yeah, I
But
hope
again,
so, right.
because it has something that we're asking to be done, it
Got it.
should be before us.
Also referred, yeah.
Right.
I just want to ask, perhaps to the auditor. So the DIF account, first of all, I think this this is great. You know, it's about mitigating the risk, which I'm a big fan of when we're talking about anything to do with the downtown. Anytime we can mitigate the risk of the taxpayers' money, we should be all over it, but, and that's why I'll support it. But the diff account, Sue, it's essentially almost like a fictional, we've created this geographic boundary that we call the diff district, right? And then we, is there actually, do all the tax revenues actually go into the account, or do they go into the general fund? And then we keep track of what is coming out of the diff area, and we call it the diff account.
I believe what happens is the diff, within the diff district, the revenue that is generated goes into the general fund. At the end of each fiscal year, we receive it's an accounting methodology that we do a journal entry. We get this information from RKG on what revenues were received within the diff district. That money's, part of it goes to pay our debt service, and it is all done through the sinking fund that was set up a few years ago, and then the rest of it goes back in as general fund revenue.
What's the sinking fund?
That is a particular fund. It's just really technically a name for the particular fund, but it's money, it's the fund we use to do the transfer in and transfer
Okay.
out.
All right, so it's the money, the diff account kind of is just an accounting account.
Correct.
Right.
The particular diff fund that we have, that basically is just a fund with the money that we have borrowed in the diff. That doesn't have any revenues coming in or out of it.
Right, no, I get
Yeah,
that. That
okay.
account that we're actually taking, which is almost spent dry from the 30 million that it originally started at, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and so, perhaps through you, Mr. President, to Councilor Crowe, so what you're seeking to do here is set up kind of an overage account almost, like swiping away the excess revenue that comes in and actually putting it in, almost like a trust fund to cover any shortfalls in the downtown in the future. That's the thinking, right?
So if we use the terminology sinking fund, if we just basically, transport the sinking fund from the general fund to the diff account. And the reason I say that is because if it drops into the general fund or the sinking fund, and correct me if I'm wrong, essentially it becomes part of the metric when we're viewing free cash, right? Does it not?
Yes, so what happens is at the end of the fiscal year, we do a journal entry within the sinking fund. A portion of that money goes towards the debt service. The other portion, I believe, is then journaled back into the general fund as general fund revenue, and that does come into the free cash.
So my thinking, Counselor, was if it's monies generated through valuation or generated through the URDP district, i.e.
Right.
DIF district, I just have a strong feeling that those monies should stay because the DIF account was created to be its own entity. So why wouldn't any overage be part of that entity?
Right, I agree with that. I mean, I think that makes sense, and then, because then there's more money to back up any shortfall later on in what we're doing with the, $180 million worth of infrastructure improvements. I support it, I just want to understand a little bit better, and then
Sure.
I'm sure we'll discuss it at a later time with Mark and the rest of the folks, but thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor Crowe.
So the motion is in place, so all those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. I want to go back for a second and explain, because first off, it's very important. I need to say thank you to all the people who came out in reference to item 7 here. I know that there's I'm not discussing, I got to explain. I'm going to explain what you're doing. If I could, folks, again, those who are opposed, those who support, anyone who came out, I say thank you. However, what I really wanted to just stress, because people are sitting here, is that Councilor Harris invoked Rule 23, which is within his right to do. And I just want to, in case anybody's confused, it's not going to be discussed this evening. It will not be discussed until the next meeting. And I want to read the Rule 23. Any ordinance, order, or resolution may be passed through all of its stages of legislation at one session provided that no member of the council objects thereto. But if any member of the council objects, the measure shall be postponed for that meeting. Rule 23 cannot be suspended. That's the rule that we're operating under this evening. And again, Councilor Harris is well within his rights to invoke that. So I just want to, again, this is not turning into a political rally. It's not going to move forward that way. I, again, thank everybody for their participation. You'll certainly have notice of when the next meeting is going to be and that if it's, again, on the agenda. Thanks. This is not a dialogue. Again, that's not the purpose. This body operates under a set of rules. The discussion will, again, this is a resolution. It'll be presented later. So with that, Madam Clerk, the next final item on the agenda.
Number 9 on the agenda, 2017-33, a gift for $950 from various donors for the DARE program.
Perhaps we could recess for a moment if people, again, want to take time to clear, but again, we need quiet in the chamber. If we could have a brief recess. Call this meeting back to order. Where are those police? Thank you. Again, the last item on the agenda.
Number 9, 2017-33, a gift for $950 from various donors for the DARE program.
The chair recognizes Councilor Kroll.
I just move acceptance, move approval.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, no, excuse me, I forgot. We need to call the roll on
Yep.
that specifically, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Kane.
Yes.
Counselor Kroll.
Yes.
Counselor DeBona.
Yes.
Counselor Harris. Counselor LaForest. Yes. Counselor Liang. Counselor Palmucci. President Finn.
Yes.
6 members.
That ends our regular agenda. We actually have minutes from the February 6th meeting. People have had a chance. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion to approve the minutes, seconded by Councilor DeBona. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved.
Young.
Madam Clerk, communications and reports from the mayor and other city officers and city boards.
Yes, thank you. Ward 6, Council Harris, remove no parking at 50 Standish Road. That will go to ordinance for
We
advertising.
have a motion to ordinance and advertising by Councilor Harris, seconded by Councilor LaForest. All those in favor? So moved.
That's all I have.
That's it for communications. Do we have any unfinished business from the preceding meeting? Madam Clerk? Okay, moving along, the reports of committees. Chair recognizes Councilor LaForest.
Thank you. 2 things from the ordinance committee. Earlier this evening, we had a council meeting relative to Council Order 2016-285 of the land disposition agreement of parcel H1 in the Hancock lot. That matter has been continued to March 6th at 6:30. We will continue that discussion. Secondly, I'd like to make a motion relative to bring out of committee Council Order 2017-020 in the Ordinance Committee, amending Title 10, Vehicles and Traffic, motorcycle restrictions after midnight, that matter be relieved. The motion is that matter be relieved from further consideration by the Ordinance Committee at the request of Councilor Harris. Motion to relieve Council Order 2017-020. We are relieving from further consideration. It will no longer be in the council calendar.
Council Kroll. Council DeBona. Yes. Council Harris.
Yes.
Council LaForest.
Yes.
Council Liang.
Yes.
Council Palmucci.
No.
President Finn.
Yes.
7 members.
That's it from ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other additional? Chair recognizes Councilor Kroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pending in finance is Council Order 2017-24, which is an appropriation of $159,500 to the Quincy Fire Department for recruit protective equipment, which I believe is an appropriation from free cash, Madam Auditor, right?
Yes, it is. yeah.
Okay, and I see Chief Barron here with us this evening. I did disseminate prior to the meeting the backup or narrative regarding this request, but as the chief's here, I'd welcome him to the podium. Good evening, Chief.
We have a second from Councilor Palmucci, but welcome, Chief.
Thank you.
Not quite the crowd we had, but. But go ahead.
You have before you a request for turnout gear for a recruit class that we are hoping to start very shortly. The equipment that we are looking for is turnout gear, 2 sets for each new recruit. They include the turnout pants and jackets, all of the boots, helmet, gloves, a particular survival flashlight, and a protective hood. The standard now for firefighting gear is to purchase 2 sets of gear, or to have each firefighter have 2 sets of gear. We've been able to incrementally have all of our firefighters have the 2 sets. We do that by their initial set of gear. Since I've been chief, I have started to conform to that standard, as have nearly every department in Metro Boston, 40 different departments. The turnout gear itself has to be cleaned after every major incident. In the process of doing that, it places that gear out of service for a period of time. We have a standard operating procedure. I will read just a general statement from that standard operating procedure, which is a requirement of all firefighters. Firefighter protective clothing must be kept clean to ensure its proper performance. Dirty gear carries less insulation, is more likely to conduct heat and electricity. It lacks liquid shedding properties and can become potentially flammable. Moreover, many fireground contaminants are carcinogens and skin toxic chemicals. Turnout gear needs to be cleaned regularly to prevent these problems. Soiled or contaminated ensembles or ensemble elements are not to be brought into living or sleeping quarters, not to be brought into the home, not stored in personal vehicles, and not washed in home laundries or washed in public laundries. This is a great departure from my initial years on the department. The cancer awareness as a causative element in firefighting studies have borne out the fact that we have to have these sets of gear. And even early in my career, if I had a fire and subsequently went to an additional fire, after that gear is saturated, it actually conducts heat and steam, and you could actually be subject to steam burns. And again, that was before all of this awareness. So, and again, since I started as chief of department 8.5 years ago, we started on this process of making sure that each firefighter has a second set of gear. We could do that with the hires that we had, and just catching up. And I've been able to get money in my budget to do that. And occasionally, we are able to refurbish gear from retirees, and that is helpful. But in this endeavor, it is important that for these hires, we start them out. We hope that they have long, healthy careers, and so that's the goal. And the request before you reflects that goal. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the councilors may have.
To the chief. Chair recognizes Councilor Liang.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's not a question. I just actually want to take a moment to commend you and all of the Quincy firefighters for the work that you guys do. Councilor DeBona, Harris, and I had an opportunity to visit the North Quincy station this past weekend. And first of all, we're grateful for the hospitality, but I think I could speak on behalf of all three of us to say that we're incredibly impressed by the work that the department does across the city. You know, we unfortunately had that horrific house fire in House Neck, and after that, I was talking to your team members over in North Quincy about what the process is when they come back from that. You know, that the gear has to come off, it has to get washed properly. They need to take hot showers, and even after that, 3 days later, one of your guys was saying that he can work out and he can still, smell that coming from his pores. I mean, it's getting all of that out of your system because of the cancer rates. I mean, there are alarming cancer rates for firefighters, and I just wanted to again take a moment to commend you guys for your service, because it's to put it into layman's terms, I don't know how else to phrase it. It's not an easy task what you guys do, and to make sure that you have the proper equipment, the proper gear to better serve our city, I think is really crucial, and to make sure that the trainees are trained properly on how to handle that. Again, like you said, not to take that gear home with you, not to take that gear from one fire and go to the next and spread those carcinogens and to spread that smoke and to spread that danger. So again, I just wanted to thank you and your men, obviously, for their hospitality, but also for the work that you do in our city. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
I have a motion to, Chair recognizes Councilor DeBona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to elaborate a little bit as well. Chief Barron, thank you to Michael Palazzo in the back there, Tommy Bowes as well, for inviting us, Councilor Harris and Councilor Liang, this past weekend to take a look at this equipment, take a look at this, the gear that you have that you're looking to appropriate. I think that was really important that you guys showed us what was coming to the council tonight, as well as having a nice lunch with you guys. I appreciate that, I really do. And how important...
See a certain value, Councilor, right? Just so we can know. I know.
They went Italian, they went pasta, which was great. So I really enjoyed that with some nice salads, some nice meatballs and sausage, Italian way. But for the 28 new candidates coming in, and how important that our fire department is starting to get back to where we were before. There's been some programs that were cut over the years, and we're just trying to get back to where we are. Very similar to the Quincy Public Schools when I talk a lot. We're getting back to the stages of where we need to be at when we're doing all this redevelopment in this Quincy Center. I want to note that I applaud you guys for the terrible tragedy that happened in House Neck as well. Near and dear to my heart that the poor Powers family, that the grandmother and the 19-year-old teenager passed. It's something that talking to some of the firefighters, you train very hard for this, and when you get out to that site, you just don't know what's going to happen at times. And that was the articulation of the story that was given to me, that sometimes you just don't know what you're gonna be put into until you get there. And to see the different stations come in together, and you know how important that is to think about really for a second here, that how important fire departments are, how important police departments are, that we need to be able to give you the resources to do your job. And unfortunately, this money there's funding involved in this, there's money involved, there's allocations of it. And people sometimes, and we're getting ready to go into that budget season, some people sometimes don't realize that we have to put these appropriations in place to give you the proper resources to run your fire unit. And without these type of things, you can't wait until they're to a point you can't use this stuff. You have to replace them while you have that second set of gear. And I want the public to understand that how important it is when we're looking at other different trucks and appropriations for different equipment, that how important it is you can't wait until it's already broken down. It's kind of too late. We have to outfit them and bring in the new cycle of things. So I'm very on board for this appropriation. I want to thank you guys for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
The chair recognizes Councilor Harris.
Thank you, Council Finn, Acting President. Thank you. Chief, always a pleasure to see you, and thank you to the guys. I'll very shortly, very quickly echo the thoughts of my peers that were with me. One thing that really impressed me about the folks and you folks is people don't realize that not only what you do on a day-by-day basis, but also the fact that your people in your department went out and found federal money, $850 million, I think I was told, $850 million, $850,000, sorry. I wrote it down too. Yeah, I'm thinking about tonight's lottery, but $850,000 that the taxpayers don't have to pay out of their pocket is through their property taxes. And I can only say is if every department was able to do things like that, where it made the department better, made a service better, we would be even better than what we are. But I was really impressed with what I saw the other day, and I applaud you. Thank you so much for what you folks do on a day-to-day basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Did want to take a moment to recognize again Lieutenant Palazzo, who was already in reference, and Firefighter Keenan and Firefighter Bose. Thank you guys for turning out here this evening with it. Appreciate it, and appreciate your service to the city. Chair recognizes Councilor Palmucci.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've obviously voted in support of this. I think it's, well spent money. I did just want to say, I also went to the fire station by myself. I was given a bag of plain M&Ms and a sticker that designated me a junior firefighter. So it wasn't even peanut M&Ms, it was plain M&Ms. So I don't know what DeBona and the rest of them got, but apparently I'm a much cheaper date. Chief, the numbers of guys that we're adding, how many guys are we adding? This is turnout gear for new folks coming out of the department. How many?
We're looking at 27 recruits in this class.
And that's a tremendous number. How many guys do we have on the job now in the department?
Right now, we have 190.
190. So, I mean, you're trying to do the math real quick, and I can't do it, but yeah,
It is
no, but I mean,
significant.
it's what, like 12, 15%, somewhere in there that you're kind of bringing on board compared to the total. And I'm sure that reflects some retirements, some additional positions, as Councilor Harris said, the federal funding. But when will they be on board? When will they be on a truck in a house?
On trucks, sometime around mid-May. We're looking
This
at
year?
roughly a 11, 12-week training academy.
And when did you start the process of onboarding these guys?
We started in May of last year.
So a full year to get them on board.
Correct. By the time we work through the civil service process, exhaustive background checks, it is quite lengthy.
Right, and we've had this the same discussion with Chief Keenan, and I think, I want to say the last time we discussed with him, it was more like a year and a half between getting, opening the list, getting someone into the academy, getting them out, and then getting them on the street. It's like a year and a half, and so, we're used to when we vote on the budget, we expect, everything just magically happens. And, okay, we add a position to the fire department, we add a position to the police department, a couple here and there, as we've been doing in alternating years, that they're going to be on, but it takes some time. So I'm glad to see that we're doing what we need to do to bring folks on board and replenish the ranks and beef up the department on a consistent basis. So thanks, keep up the good work.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to firefighters Local 792. I didn't even get chips or M&Ms in my Engine 6 visit, and I'm a frequent flyer down there. But I want to say thank you to the representatives for the union here in the audience who are always so willing to answer any questions, to reach out, to advocate. And what you do goes far beyond the day-to-day expectations of what your job is. You're out there, out in the community, and the philanthropy that the firefighters union do in this community is tremendous. And you're always advocating for something, whether it's, some women in my ward did the Busy Bees breast cancer walk. The firefighters team were right there with them. They did an event at Cagney's. I mean, they're just constantly, whether it's Relay for Life, something, you're always out working in the community, working for the betterment of the community. And I just am grateful for the charitable work you do, in addition to the work you do, obviously, in the department. So the other thing is, clearly it's time, Chief, for another fire ops training. Councilor Kroll and I are the only two around the well that are alum of your fire ops training program, which was very great for us to get that hands-on understanding as to what it is, what you endure. And obviously nothing like the real-life scenario, but my gratitude on behalf of the Powers family. When I spoke with Michael, the survivor, he says to me, he's worried about the neighbors that witnessed the incident. He's worried about your firefighters and the emergency responders who responded to the incident. And very tragic loss in Housnack, but I am grateful for all the work of your department and their response in that event. We'll be having services for the family this week, and it's been very hard for the family, but we do have some funds set up for them as well. So I just, thank you, Chief. We'll be
Thank
supporting
you,
your
Councilor.
appropriation, making sure everyone has the gear they need to keep their strong response.
Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, would the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Kane? Yes. Counselor Crowe? Yes. Counselor DeBona? Yes. Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Counselor LaForest?
Yes.
Counselor Liang?
Yes.
Counselor Palmucci? Yes. President Finn?
Yes.
8 members.
Are there any other additional reports of committees this evening? Seeing none, presentation of petitions, memorials, and remonstrance.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, excuse me, Chief, I didn't mean to.
Thank you for recognizing the union leadership that are here.
That was
Thank
the
you.
longest presentation for one of the surest votes we've had, so, but it was great. Good to see you, Chief. Thanks. Have him. And then the Chair recognizes again Councilor Kroll for presentation of petitions, memorials, and remonstrance.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It is, with great sadness, great sadness, that, I recognize the passing of not only a dear friend of mine, but, a son of Quincy, Kevin Salucci, alumni of class of 98, Quincy High School. Didn't think that was going to happen. Just an unbelievable, human, quite honestly. A family man, husband to his wife, 3 kids, Stephen, Declan, and Paul. Kevin was he was a stand-up guy. If you knew him, to know him was to love him. And, he was in that tragic accident back, it was 3 years ago on the Arbor Way. And, currently found himself in a wheelchair and fought hard for, 3 years. And we lost him this week. And I can't say enough about the kid. And like I said, if you know him, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I would ask if we could, keep or dedicate the meeting in the memory of the Salucci family. And I know that there's planned services for Thursday night, 4 to 8 at Sweeney on Elm. So certainly keep that family in your prayers. Like I said, they were just, Kid was just a doer and a giver, and just a great guy. So we lost a good one. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Chair recognizes Counselor Palmucci.
Thank you. I have two things I wanted to remonstrate. The first is I wanted to, just to the mayor's representative again, suggest that there should be some sort of presentation before this body about newspaper reports that the city entered into an agreement with a party about the determination of the Quincy Hospital. I read it over a month ago. I asked over a month ago for the administration to make a presentation to us about the $4 million, about the reverter clause. I know it's not my ward, and I know the councilors who do represent that area have far more intimate knowledge about what's going on. They've been working hand in hand with the neighbors and the administration, but from a councilor who doesn't represent that area, I do think that something, again, I'll request a second time, that something should be before this body about that reverter. Whether an agreement has been signed already or not, I don't know. Whether $4 million has come into the city's possession or not, I don't know. There should be some sort of discussion before this body about that. I trust, Mr. Walker, if you found a way to spend it, that would be before us, but I'd like to know the beginning part of the money coming in. And then second, just want to recognize that it is Councilor Bill Harris's birthday today. Wow. We wish him a very, well, some of us do, but we wish him a very happy birthday and many more. So happy birthday, Councilor. Thank
That
you, Joe.
explains a great deal, rushing to get home for gate.
That's right. That's right.
Again, all seriousness, happy. No. Nothing.
You don't look a day over 80.
I know. It was probably inappropriate on my part, and I apologize, because again, it's certainly a serious issue and matter. Chair recognizes Councilor Crowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and in the vein of remonstrating, I just want to touch on an issue that I've been dealing with in Ward 2 that gravely affects the folks that I represent living at 1000 Southern Artery. And, I had the opportunity, as I do frequently, to pay a visit to the building on Super Bowl Sunday. And, being a frequent flyer down there, I had known that it is going through a massive renovation, transformation, both internally and externally. But what I always found odd was that the kitchen seemed to be the point of just constant delay. And it was brought to my attention at that Super Bowl party that there was little to no communication about when it would be reopened. And also the rumor around town was that the city of Quincy were the ones holding up the kitchen at 1000 Southern Artery to be open. And as many of you know, I've consistently raised issues up here that affect our senior citizens, and I'm not shy about opening my mouth when I feel like a situation's being taken advantage of, particularly when it relates to the city of Quincy's senior citizens. So I started to do some investigation. I've always tried to be respectful of the fact that it is a privately run business, but when I feel the emotion coming out of my constituents that there's not any end in sight, I take grave issue with that. So I started to do some digging, and connected with the property management company who really didn't provide me with much of anything outside of a contact down in Washington, D.C., who was overseeing the subcontractor. I subsequently scheduled a conference call with the Commissioner of Inspectional Services, Jay Duca, so that we could clearly explain that the city of Quincy was not the obstacle to this kitchen being reopened. I had asked the individual down in DC for a commitment to a time frame and when we were going to reopen this kitchen. He was non-committal. I said, I understand, I'm putting you on the spot, but you'll hear from me in 3 days. Called him in 3 days, no response. 2 days later, got a response that the kitchen is going to be open on March 10th, and they'll also be resolving the issue with the mailroom, which is a positive. I don't see it as just a kitchen, because to know 1000 Southern Artery is to love 1000 Southern Artery, and the kitchen is a focal point of community, quite honestly. So I'm very unimpressed with the approach that the private management had taken to move this issue forward. Fortunately, I'm able to report, like I said, a positive that through advocacy, we'll see a resolve on March 10th. I have sent a letter to residents. Apparently, they didn't attach the message from the public building inspector, which I guess we'll deal with that later. But Councilor DeBona had also hosted a little coffee hour in there, and the same issue was raised. So I just don't understand. I try to be sensitive to the fact that it is a privately run business, but there was just no forward progress being made, which is maddening. And the people at 1000 Southern Artery deserve better than that. And I hope that this acts as, I don't know what I hope it acts as, a case study of what not to do going forward. But again, I just wanted to remonstrate on the fact and let the folks know who live there that I am very on top of this and will manage this to a successful outcome to the best of my ability. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Chair recognizes Councilor DeBona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to echo the sentiments of Councilor Kroll, I let him take the lead on this, being the ward councilor at 1000 Southern Artery, but his constituents are also my constituents, and having that coffee hour and having longtime residents come to me going, it was supposed to be 6 weeks for this kitchen, and it's 6 months later. My mouth dropped. And I know it's a private entity, it's a privately property management company, but I'm going to speak up too. And these are people that I've had a relationship with through my school committee days and into being a counselor at large. Got many phone calls prior to that. And I understand they're going through a redevelopment over there with millions and millions of dollars of increasing and making the place better. But when you start to take more funding and you increase the rent over there, and then you pull back and you don't give them this cafeteria, that's a problem. Some residents at 1000 Southern Artery and other senior housings, that's the one place or one area that they're gonna go. They're gonna come out of their room, they're gonna come down to the cafeteria, possibly use the kitchen, and they're gonna go back up to their apartment or their studio apartment. And that's gonna be what they do for the day. They go down there for a social entity, and they go back. Sometimes they don't leave the property at all, and they're taking that away from them for now 6 months. It's something that I had raised with Councilor Kroll and said, you take the lead on this, and I'm glad he spoke about this tonight, and I'm gonna jump on board with saying that we just need to get this kitchen up and running, and it would really help out all the seniors over there. And they sometimes, when they weren't getting the answers from the property management, they were coming to us and asking us, what can you guys do? Well, we're gonna do something. And I'm very happy that we're looking for a March 10th opening date. Hopefully that's about 2.5 weeks about. And hopefully it doesn't get delayed down the road. It's the winter time too. They don't want to leave the property as much as, in the summer months. This is an entity that needs to be addressed. So With that, Chairman Finn, I thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Seeing no more presentations of petitions, memorials, and remonstrance, motions, orders, and resolutions. Seeing none, scheduling of committee meetings and public hearings. Is there any need to say? Chair recognizes Councilor Kroll.
I just need to know, maybe the clerk of committees or city clerk, rather, could help me with this. When is the next city council meeting? Is that the 6th?
Monday, March 6th.
In Council of Forest, you have an ordinance committee meeting scheduled before that?
I'll schedule it.
At 6:30? We have some issues pending in finance, so I'm wondering if it makes sense to go at 6 and transition you at 6:30, and then anything we don't cover in finance, we can cover subsequently in reports committees. Is that amenable to most folks? Or, I know 6 is an early start. Yes?
Madam Clerk,
Okay.
works.
Yeah?
Yes.
All right. We'll go 3-6 at 6.
You got it.
And
See you then.
Councilor, you're all set related. You've got everything scheduled already, correct? Great, terrific.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other scheduling? See none, we'd certainly entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Brad, I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
I will.